The people that are recruited into the Brotherhood generally come from a specific bloodline. It's in the DNA. Now, I did not come from that bloodline. And the reason that I was brought into the Brotherhood is I was born with the ability to see in, you can call it, various dimensions. One of which was to see the bank or the memories in a person's mind. In 1969, at a bowling alley in Lynn, Massachusetts, Post Office Lanes. It was the Candlepin Bowling Alley below the post office. There was only 10 lanes there. My mom and dad would go as part of a bowling league, and sometimes they would take me along. And I was 6 years old, and I'm at the bowling alley, and I'm sitting there. All the parents are bowling, and I was one of the only kids there. And this guy comes up to me, and he says, "You can see what's in the corner of that room, can't you?" And I said, "Yes." Now you have to understand that from the time I can remember, I could always see energy. I could see beyond a tree or a chair or a table or even a person. I could see these swirling, morphing bits of something. And I thought everyone could see this. I could see past events. I could see your memories. And I could see future events. And I thought this was absolutely normal. But then I realized that it wasn't normal, that nobody else could see what I was seeing. And when I began to look at people, I realized that they were all asleep. All the people around me who were walking around were virtually asleep. You could say in a trance. They couldn't see what was right in front of them. And I could, but I didn't understand it. And I could use my mind and move some of that energy or change something. I had no kind of control over this. And he said, "I'm going to show you how to control it. There are others just like you." This person would later be known as my uncle. Later, I would find out he was in a secret society called the Brotherhood, which I didn't know anything about secret societies at 6 years old. I didn't know anything about this. But he befriended me. We began to talk, and he began to give me some, you could say, exercises, mental exercises. They were called processes. Things to do with my mind, to train my mind, how to see even further and how to move energy even better. And that was the beginning of me being brought into this organization called the Brotherhood, which is a true secret society. And when we talk about secret societies, a lot of people know and heard of secret societies like the Masons. They call that a secret society. The Illuminati, they call that a secret society. Yale University has Skull and Bones, which is a very well-known secret society. How can you be well-known and be a secret society? If it's a secret, you should know about it. But it is a secret society. Many presidents, like the Bushes, were members of Skull and Bones. John Kerry, many of the directors of the CIA were members of Skull and Bones. Supreme Court justices, titans of industry were members of Skull and Bones. And I remember when George Bush wrote in his memoirs, or one of his books, he said, "When I went to Yale University, I was inducted into a secret society called Skull and Bones." A society so secret, that's all I can say about it. And no one ever talks about Skull and Bones, what goes on in that secret society. There's Bohemian Grove, which is a secret society, but it's a real place. Alex Jones actually was there with a camera, and he filmed some of the things that went on, so we know about it. There's the Bilderberg Group, and again, Alex Jones and others have gone there with cameras, filming heads of state, prime ministers, presidents, members of royal families, the Clintons, Barack Obama, the head of the IMF, International Monetary Fund, the head of the World Bank, the head of every major news outlet in the world, chairmen of the largest corporations in the world, the richest people in the world, coming out of the hotel. And it was like, this is bigger than the G7 meeting. There are more power brokers here than any event on the planet. How come it's not reported in not a single newspaper or a single media outlet? And the film is there. No one denies that it exists, but nobody dares talk about it. So the first group of secret societies are these well-known societies that nobody talks about what goes on behind closed doors. That's really the secret. But there are other secret societies that nobody knows about because they're really secret. The Brotherhood is one of those. The people in the Brotherhood are the real power brokers behind the scenes. It's not the politicians who run countries. It's not the presidents of corporations that run corporations and make the decisions. It's a shadow organization. Some people call it a shadow government that actually controls and runs the world. And the Brotherhood is at the top of the food chain. But the thing that's unique about the Brotherhood is it teaches its members who have unique abilities how to accelerate those abilities and control those abilities. And then those people, like myself, are then used for humanitarian purposes, according to the Brotherhood, nefarious purposes for those who maybe disagree with some of the principles of those organizations.
Starting, at 6, were you put into a training program? Were you indoctrinated in some way into this system or this shadow organization?
There was a TV series called The Pretender, and it talked about 1963. A young boy was brought in who had special abilities to an organization called the Center and was trained how to use those abilities. Well, it's loosely based on my story. And the idea of the Pretender is this particular person had the ability to morph into another person and virtually absorb everything that person knew and could gain the knowledge very easily. So he could quickly gain knowledge. That's just one skill that I was trained in. The other was influencing other people as well. So in the Brotherhood, there are several tracks depending on a person's abilities. But in all those tracks, you're assigned a sponsor, but we called it an uncle. Unless it was a woman, then it was your aunt. And this person was your liaison. This is the person that taught you, that trained you. It's kind of like being an apprentice to a master. And if you look at Star Wars as an example, you have the Jedi Knight has a master, and that's the person who trains the Jedi Knight in the Jedi Knight skills. In the Brotherhood, it was the same way. My uncle would sit down with me, usually at a coffee shop or something, sometimes on a park bench, and say, I want you to do this. Look at that tree. And he would give me some mental things to do with moving energy, seeing, changing my focus. And he would start teaching me how to use my mind to see, manipulate, and control my mind and energy. He would say, good, do that for 10 minutes every day. I'll see you in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, I'd go back for the next lesson. So I went through a series of trainings in the Brotherhood. It also included written material. Much of it was very old because the Brotherhood is an organization that goes back over 1,000 years. And some of the manuscripts were very old. Some of them were rewritten by hand, not typed. And we would study these manuscripts. They were in homes of high-ranking members. Skull and Bones has a building on Yale University campus. The Masons have Masonic lodges, so there are buildings. But in the Brotherhood, there are no buildings. Again, it's a true underground shadow organization where you meet in homes, you meet with high-ranking members, and you are taught and trained. And then you're introduced to other high-ranking members. I was flown around the world on the Concorde, and I was in presidential palaces. I was on the phone with kings and princesses and crown princesses, prime ministers. I would be set up and meet with people in the corporate world to discuss global affairs. I was brought into the Bilderberg meetings to listen to and discuss and give opinions on global affairs based on my unique abilities to see the energy and see the future potentialities and give comments and insight. And in some cases, I was actually told by the high-ranking members of the Brotherhood that when I would go into a meeting, my job was to influence the people there through the mind, influence them to take a certain direction and track, because it was the best track for the future in terms of improving people's conditions around the world. And that's what I did. I would sometimes go in and not really say anything, but just use my abilities to, I don't want to say implant, but project certain ideas and thoughts and help people go to a certain direction. The people that are recruited into the Brotherhood generally come from a specific bloodline. It's in the DNA. Now, I did not come from that bloodline, and on occasion, there's kind of an amoeba where somebody has some abilities innate in them when they're born. Now, we've heard stories around the world of people that were born with innate abilities. This is not fantasy. This is documented, substantiated, evidence-based research where a little girl, and they have documentary shows all over the world showing these people, a little girl at 5 years old sits down at a piano and starts to play Beethoven. Never sat in front of a piano in her life, never took a lesson, never listened to Beethoven, but they are all of a sudden just playing automatically. How is that possible? That's an innate ability that that little girl was born with. People have other abilities, whether it's athletic abilities, mathematical abilities. And again, it's documented. We see it all over the world where there's a young child, 5, 6 years old, that can do math calculations and just starts writing equations down and is blowing away people that have PhDs in mathematics. They walk into, they see a formula that everyone's working on, they go, oh yes, here's the answer. And they're 10 years old. So we do know that there are people that have innate abilities and they're born with them. Some of those are difficult to quantify because they're in the psychic realm, the extrasensory perception realm. But we hear about seers or psychics or clairvoyants that are just born with the ability to see energy. The reason that I was brought into the Brotherhood is I was born with the ability to see in, you can call it, various dimensions. One of which was to see the bank or the memories in a person's mind.